Alright, today we're going to be talking about the legend of Frosty the Snowman. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh yeah, Frosty the Snowman, the one from the 1960s. No, this one is from 2005, starring Bill Fagerbakke as the voice of Frosty the Snowman. You may also know him as the voice of Patrick Star from SpongeBob SquarePants. This movie has a great cast of voice actors. When you just take a look at it, you got Bill Fagerbakke, Tom Kenny, and many, many more. But why does nobody ever remember this TV Christmas special? Because apparently I'm the only one that watched it growing up. But still, why does nobody ever talk about this movie? It has some of the most famous voice actors to ever live in this movie, and still, nobody remembers it. I think part of the reason why nobody remembers this movie is because it was a straight-to-DVD release and it was only ever made for TV. Much like the original Frosty, where it was only made for TV, but still everybody remembers it. But before this movie ever came out, there was already many sequels to Frosty the Snowman, the original, that came out in the 1960s. With Frosty's Winter Wonderland released in 1976 as the very first sequel to the original Frosty the Snowman. And in 1979, the very first stop-motion Frosty the Snowman movie came out, titled Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. And one more sequel in 1992 titled Frosty Returns, which we don't talk about. But yet, all these sequels and nobody talks about the legend of Frosty the Snowman. Now, I will admit, growing up, I never watched the original Frosty the Snowman, so I thought that this movie was the only Frosty the Snowman film. But back when I was little, I really did like this movie. I thought it was good, I thought it was a great Christmas movie, and it introduced me to Frosty the Snowman. But as I get older, and I start to look at this movie every year, I do come to realize that it's nothing like the original, if I'm being completely honest. It tries to be its own thing, which it's supposed to be, but it just comes up dumb. Most of the jokes in the movie fall flat, and are just straight up not funny at all. This movie falls into the category of the weird mid-2000s movies that we don't remember, but we can all admit we've seen at least once. One of the many things I do like about this movie is the voice acting. Bill Fagerbakke as Frosty the Snowman is probably the perfect choice to choose as Frosty. He sounds almost identical to how Frosty sounded in the original.
Happy birthday!
Another big part of this movie is the animation. Now, say what you will about it, but in my opinion, it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. Some people consider it to be bad, some people consider it to be good. My opinion, the animation is alright. This movie feels rushed. I mean, from start to beginning, it just feels like you're just ready to get it over with. And that's really what this movie struggles on. It's very forgettable and just all around an alright movie. When the movie tries to get emotional, I feel nothing because Frosty just doesn't mean anything like he did in the original. I know this is supposed to be a completely different movie from the original, but in the original, Frosty was still a character we still enjoyed and still liked. In this one, I feel nothing because Frosty meant something in that movie, so when something bad happened to him, we all cared. In this one, Frosty basically means nothing, so in this movie, I just don't really care. In conclusion, this is not the worst or the best Christmas movie. It's also not the worst or the best Frosty the Snowman sequel. So, I can't really dog on it that much, but it's kinda hard to work with this. There's so many elements I didn't like, and I also did like. But there's so few that I did like. This movie just feels like a filler movie for Frosty the Snowman. But if you're a fan of Frosty the Snowman movies, I'd check this one out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have a Merry Christmas.